Literary symbolism. Symbolism is probably a term that you are already familiar with but may not be very comfortable using. It does take some practice to be able to figure out when something is meant to be a symbol or not. First, remember that a symbol means more than what it is, whether it is an object, person, situation, or action. Most pieces of literature will contain both literal meanings and figurative meanings. Often writers will use this to bring insight into the work. Here are some tips to follow when trying to figure out if something is a symbol or not. Look for clues. This is often done by repetition or emphasis. How often is an item mentioned? Do you read about it just once, or do you see it in there, for example, 6 times? Is a possible symbol given some sort of importance? For example, let's look at Raymond Carver's story, Cathedral. The title is Cathedral. Bub and Robert both watch a TV show about cathedrals, and then Bub draws a cathedral. Next, check the context of the literary work to see if it supports the symbolism. Just because a tree is mentioned does not mean it may necessarily symbolize growth or life. What type of importance is given to the tree? How does it fit into the story? Flannery O'Connor talks about this in a letter to Dr. T.R. Spivey. When asked about why the misfit's hat in the story A Good Man is Hard to Find is black, she explains that most countrymen in Georgia wore black hats. An item must fit in with a literal or common sense explanation and should not contradict or distort the story. For example, in everyday use, the quilts are literally quilts, but they also symbolize family history because they were made up of scraps from family members' clothing. Dee rejected these quilts at one time because she thought they were for poor people, a life she was trying to escape from. However, later she sees the quilts as artifacts to show off her oppression. Many of the literary pieces read for this class have symbolic elements, but the bottom line with symbolism, like any type of analysis, is that you have to be able to support your suggestion that an item is symbolic.